Okay, so this is a demonstration of the D-DAC, the Data-Driven Algorithmic Composer. And what it is a application built in Max 7 whose purpose is to musically sonify datasets. Now, how it does that and how it takes compositional roles from the dataset variables and things like mean, standard deviation, all that. There's a brief explanation of that in this table here, but I'll be firing up a video with more details exactly how it works and how the actual max patch drives it. So first of all, the first thing you want to do when you want to actually use it is select your DAW that you use. So this up here, if you click here, it'll show you a list of your DAWs that you have installed, and it does that using the rewire within Max 7. So I'm going to click Ableton Live because that's what I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to open it really quick first before I do anything else. So we have that on the right, and the next thing to do is the application will read comma separated variables, but you will have to get rid of the commas and replace them with tabs, as in spaces. So you can do that pretty easily in Notepad. And I'll just show you what a data set looks like that I'd be using. So here's EMG data, and I got this online. I'll put a link to the source, but it's basically electromyography data, and that's just muscle impulses, electrical impulses from muscles. And as you can see, there's no real indication, there's no headers here, but these are just channels, and you do get plus and minus in this kind of data. And there's actually no timeline here either, so these are just the 8 channels, there's no timeline. That doesn't matter, the D-DAC can still understand that it's sequential, so it doesn't make much difference. You will have to tell it that there is no time domain, but I'll show you that in a minute. So that's just to give you an idea. So we'll actually use that one straight away. So the first thing you do is read once you have it in that kind of layout and no commas. And let me see if I can find where that was. Yeah, it was this one here, elbowing. So it's asking me first, is a time column included in your dataset? As for these ones, it isn't, so I'm going to say no. And what it does here is it processes the min and max and a lot of other things actually. So it puts that data through a lot of processing, and if the file size is over 5 megabytes, you might run into some trouble. It might take about a minute to actually do it, and it might look like it's crashed, but for something this size, I think that one was quite small. It was only 400 kilobytes, and it's still quite a lot of data. So hit dump. It'll kind of take a moment to do that. And next, just to do some more processing. Now this is the first kind of user-defined variable that you have to select. So for this, the general guideline, if you have 4,000, you use 4,000 ms if you have 5+ variables. So as you can see in this data set, there's 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to use 4. Just keep it steady. At this point, I'm going to choose kind of a template that I've already set up for this. And yeah, we'll go through this now. So this is kind of the final screen you'll get to on the D-DAC, and the kind of second user-defined variable you have is the row increment, and what that means basically, it's set to default to 2, and that's just because I've been using a lot of these EMG data sets, and they're quite lengthy, so it would take a very long time to get through all of that unless you started skipping some rows, and that's what this does here. The row increment is basically, it's set to 2, so it skips 1 every time. I'm actually going to set it to 12 because it's a massive data set. Now, while it might be a massive data set, EMG data happens very quickly. So this is, it's probably about 30 seconds, even though it's so much data. So yeah, the D-DAC, it's good for kind of snippets, and yeah, you can choose how fast it goes through using the row increment. So I'm going to set that to 12. And for the first one, the third user-defined variable is the scaling. So as you can see here, in this drop-down menu, there's major scale, natural minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, blues, penta, Japanese, Spanish, and bebop. And they're essentially intervals, and that's through the scaling process. But I'll go through that in a later video. So yeah, so you can just start and stop. I've already got my template here. How it works is there is 3 modules. So this is the melody, the main melody, and that's happening in this one channel here. So I'm just going to solo that first and play that. Okay, so I'll just stop that. And the next two channels that come through will be the melody and the bass. And they occur less frequently, and they're just more to complement the main melody, which you can see here. So I'll let them all play at once. And when you start and stop it, it'll trigger it at the right point, so they're all synced if you ever wanted to use this for drums somehow. But that would be a bit more experimental. And you can change this live. It'll play it on the next measure. So that's what this is, by the way. This is just a measure. The 8 channels playing in a bar. Again, I'll go into more detail in a later video of how these are actually doing in it. You can get a rough idea just by pausing and reading those, how it works. But this is just a demonstration. So I'm going to restart it and try it with another data set. You have to exit your DAW first, because right now Ableton is running in slave mode. And this is the master, so you have to turn this off first. And then you can restart. So yeah, I have to choose Ableton again, and we'll open it real quick before I forget. Okay, so I'm going to read the next one while that's opening. And we just did this one here, so I'm going to do 7. And 7, just to give you an indication of how the time signature works, it's all over 4, and what I mean by that is they're all crotchet notes, the quarter notes. And again, that does get changed later on, so it's not super boring, but initially they are all crotchet notes, so it's something over 4, it's either 8/4, 7/4, 6/4, 5/4, and so on. So this is going to be technically 7/4 to start with, but that will kind of vary as notes vary, durations vary. And again, I'll go into more detail on that in the later video. So the time column is not included in this dataset. Dump. It's going to open a template as well. Next. For this one, we'll stay with 4. It's still 8 variables. And I'll do harmonic minor for this one. And again, I'm going to notch it up to 12. So as you can tell, having the amount of variables will change the kind of time signature, and you'll have mixed results. So depending on how many variables you have in your time signature, I suppose that also depends on what scale you're going to use and what instruments you'd like to use. So I'm just going to do a few more. For this one, I'm going to choose 2 just to show you how the tempo affects it. We'll do blues scale for this one. Notch that up to 12. And play. Okay, it's a brief demonstration of that, and this will also work in Logic as well. It's not just Ableton, it's whatever DAW you have installed will show up here. As you see, I also have Sibelius installed in this computer, and which can record the notes. So we'll do another 2, I'd say. And for this time we'll use Penta. Okay, so that's the pentascale, And there are how many variables in that? There are 5. So do 2 more. And we'll do something a bit different here. Time loaded in, dump. For this one, I'm going to use a template that has kind of arpeggiators in it. And the reason I'm going to do that is just because I'm going to show you can use different tempos to mess around with this. So this is, I think, the 5th template. And instead of choosing 4, even though it's only 8 of 4 channels, I'm going to choose 16,000. So it's going to be really slow moving between each note. The reason I'm going to do that is to show you how you can use arpeggiators within Ableton. So as you can see here in the template, there are some arpeggiators attached to these. So they're just going to be kind of playing longer notes. So I'll stick again this up to 12. And we'll leave it in major, I reckon. So you can see that's actually going to keep playing the measure even though I've turned it off. So it'll keep playing the measure until actually starting and stop won't stop the whole thing. It'll go through the whole measure. So that's just an example of using arpeggiators. So you can use the D-DAC in different ways. Okay, so that's pretty much the demonstration of the D-DAC. As I said, it works with multiple DAWs depending on what you have installed. The rewire object in Max will figure that out at the start. Okay, cool. Thanks for watching.